Thompson family, Robert, a dedicated doctor, Clara, a sharp lawyer who worked from home, and their lively 10-year-old daughter, Rosie, felt as though life had given them a gift. They had just purchased a charming old bungalow in a peaceful suburb far removed from the chaos of city life. The house, nestled among lush trees and surrounded by well-kept homes, had everything they wanted. A large kitchen, spacious bedrooms, a cozy backyard with a small swimming pool, and plenty of room for Rosie to grow up happily. At the housewarming party a week after moving in, the Thompsons invited their neighbors to join them in their backyard. Clara found herself enjoying conversations with the other women near the pool. But one woman, Mrs. Harper, an older resident who had lived in the neighborhood for decades, stood out. While polite, Mrs. Harper appeared anxious, her eyes darting towards the house as if wary of something. When Clara invited her to see the bedrooms, the older woman declined, visibly uncomfortable. "Some people don't like being in other people's private spaces," Robert laughed later when Clara shared her observations. "Don't overthink it." The couple brushed off Mrs. Harper's behavior, too busy settling into their new home to dwell on it. Soon, the school holidays began, and the family decided to start renovations. Workers arrived each day to restore parts of the bungalow, focusing first on the kitchen, where the wood and wiring showed signs of age. One evening after the workers had left, the family gathered for dinner. While enjoying takeout from a nearby restaurant, they talked about their day as Rosie went to check out the holes in the kitchen wall. Feeling curious, Rosie climbed onto the counter and looked into one of the holes. "I see something in here," she said excitedly, reaching in and pulling out an old doll. The doll looked very strange. Its clothes, which might have been bright ones, were now faded and torn. Its smile was crooked and creepy, and it even had teeth, yellowed and stained. In its hand, it held a crumpled piece of paper. "Look what I found. Can I keep it?" Rosie said, holding up the doll. Robert took the paper and read aloud, "My name is Emily, and I killed the last owners." Clara gasped. "What kind of a sick joke is this?" she asked, her voice tense. "Probably just some prank by kids who lived here before," Robert replied, though he couldn't hide his unease. He tossed the doll and the note into the kitchen trash. "I will get you a new doll tomorrow, Rosie. This one's filthy." Disappointed, Rosie went to bed. That night, a soft thud startled Rosie awake. Rubbing her eyes, she sat up and froze. There, on her study table, sat the doll. Its lifeless eyes seemed to stare directly at her, and its smile looked wider than before. Excited, she thought her parents had changed their minds. She hopped out of bed, grabbed the doll, and snuggled back under her blanket, clutching it tightly. Clara woke in the middle of the night to a faint sound of sobbing, like someone's crying. Worried, she got up and walked to Rosie's room. The sight before her was every mother's nightmare. Rosie lay motionless on the bed, her blanket pulled up to her chin. Clara rushed to her daughter's side and gently pulled back the blanket. She gasped in horror. Blood trickled from Rosie's eyes and nose, staining her pale cheeks. "Rosie, wake up," Clara whispered desperately, shaking her daughter, but Rosie's body was still. Clara's breath quickened and she stumbled out of the room, running to wake Robert. Bursting into her bedroom, she saw him lying on his side. "Robert, wake up, it's Rosie." She froze mid-sentence as her hand touched his shoulder. His skin was ice cold. "Robert," she whispered, her voice trembling. She turned him over to face her and screamed. Blood seeped from his eyes and nose, and his expression was frozen in a silent plea for help. He was gone. Clara staggered backward, shaking her head in disbelief. That is when the bedroom door slammed shut behind her. She whipped around and her heart stopped. Standing in the doorway was the doll. Its smile was no longer crooked but fully sinister, its teeth glinting in the dim light. You are not real," Clara shrieked, backing away as the doll tilted its head unnaturally, taking a step forward. The room filled with a chilling, childlike giggle as the doll whispered, "You should not have thrown me away." The next morning, the neighborhood was eerily quiet as police cars lined the streets outside the bungalow, responding to concerned calls from neighbors who hadn't seen the Thompsons all morning. Officers entered the house. What they found was deeply unsettling. Robert and Clara's lifeless bodies were discovered in their bedroom, their eyes and noses streaked with blood. Rosie lay the same in her room, her small hands clutching the edge of her blanket. But it was the kitchen that sent shivers down the officers' spines. On the dining table sat the doll. Its torn clothes were smeared with blood, and its teeth glinted menacingly. In its hand was a new note. "I told you, I don't like being thrown away." The doll's smile looked bigger now, almost like it was alive. As the officers nervously glanced at each other, one of them thought he saw its eyes blink.